We're very pleased to have you here today, Joe. I just want to say to our Arabic teachers, it's good to have everybody with us. Some of you will know Joe. Some of you were at the Summer Institute last year where Joe presented to us on technology, and we're very pleased to have him back to do this webinar. And it's the first one we'll have done together. And if it goes well and you like it, we can do more. So please, Joe, take it away.
Thanks so much, Tony, for that lovely introduction. And I'd like to officially thank Qatar Foundation International and the British Council for making this webinar possible. I very much hope that you're going to find the ideas useful. It's all around good practice in online teaching. We've all been thrown into this situation in the last 8 weeks of having to teach everything online, which has been a huge challenge, I'm sure, for everybody. And what I've been trying to do is support language teachers not only in the UK, but essentially from around the world through webinars, through social media, and in any way I possibly can. So you're very, very welcome. And thank you ever so much for finding the time to register and to come along to the webinar. My contact details on the screen, as you can see, are my Twitter handle is @JoeDale. I signed up to Twitter in 2007, so I was able to use my normal name without adding any numbers to it or anything like that. Underneath is my email address, joedale@talk21.com. So if there's anything you want to ask me after today, if you can't read your notes or you're trying something out and you're not sure exactly what to do, then don't hesitate in contacting me. I'm more than happy to help. And I'm genuinely saying that. I'm not just saying that as a matter of fact, I genuinely mean it. So do please reach out if you would like me to help you in any way. Okay, so let's actually, before I go on to the next slide. So for those people that haven't seen me before, I'll just give you a little bit of background. I was a languages teacher myself for 13 years, teaching French at secondary school level for 3 years, and then 10 years on the Isle of Wight, teaching in a middle school, 9 to 13-year-olds. So I've got upper primary and secondary school experience. And for the last 10 years, I've been an independent languages consultant. And normally I go all around the world running training face-to-face with people, but of course now everything I'm doing online via webinars, etc. So let's go on to the first slide. Right, the first thing I'd like us to do, please, is I want you to tell me how you're feeling about remote teaching. And to do that, I'm going to use a tool called Jamboard, which I'm going to talk more about later on. So I'm just going to click on the link right now here, and I'm going to copy that link and I'm going to put it into the chat for you. So what I'd like you to do, please, is I'd like you to click on that link for me, please. And then on the screen, you can see that you've got this white canvas. And what I'd like you to do, please, I'm going to give you two options, or a couple of options, actually. The first option is you can see here on the left-hand side, it has the add image option. So in that, I've just clicked, and then I'm going to click the Google image search. And I want you to write down a word which represents how you're feeling. So I'm going to write the word happy. And I've clicked on that, and you can see all these images have come up. So I'm now going to click on this one and click select. And this image has now gone straight into my Jamboard like that. I'm going to make it a little bit small so it's not too big. You can also use the pen tool here. So you can choose from a range of 6 colors, and you can draw a little picture if you want to. So for example, I could draw a smiley face like this. Again, not easy to draw with a laptop mouse, but never mind. And another option is to click on the sticky note, which is here. And you could say just a single word like happy, if that makes sense. So you don't have to do all 3 of these things. You can do a couple of them, whatever you would like. So with that in mind, what I'd like you to do, please, now is just to tell me how you're feeling about remote teaching, online teaching, by using one of those methods. And I'm going to give you about a minute or so to do that. That'd be lovely. Please, please, please do not click clear frame, because if you do that, it will just delete everything, which will be a pain. That happened to me yesterday in a webinar, and annoyingly, I couldn't just click undo. So what I would suggest in a real situation when you're doing this sort of thing is that you click the 3 dots here, top right, and you click make a copy. And that means that you will always have a copy of your Jamboard without anyone having annotated over the top. But if you've not seen this before, this is a Google tool which works within G Suite. And it's a really, really nice way of creating like a mood board or a mind map. And I'm going to show you many, many more examples later on. So at the moment, I can see that people are either feeling challenged or daunted, or is that bored, maybe that one. So if we make that picture a little bit smaller, if that's okay. So I'll just give you a few more minutes to access the Jamboard. If you are having any issues at all about putting your content onto the Jamboard, feel free to write something in the chat to show how you're feeling as well. That's absolutely fine. There's no obligation at all about using the Jamboard. If I wanted to get rid of that little line on the right-hand side, I can just click on the eraser tool and I can just rub it out like this. So very simple, very straightforward. So in this way, using Jamboard, we can have everybody all collaborating together. And I think having this sort of check-in activity, as I like to refer to it, is very, very important, particularly at the beginning of a session, just to see how the students are, because I'm sure they're feeling, as worried and challenged possibly as some of you are feeling. And therefore to check in with those students is really, really important, I think, just to make sure that everyone is okay and is all right, because otherwise they won't be able to learn if they're feeling distracted or worried or scared or what have you. So I think those sorts of check-in questions, as well as doing actual activities, is incredibly important. Okay, so I can see that someone's feeling worried. And you can see this is deliberately designed to be anonymous. If I were to add you via your Gmail addresses, which I could do if I was working in a school when you all had Google Mail accounts, I could do that. But for now, I can set this up so that anybody can access the Jamboard. Okay, that's lovely. I'll just give you another couple of seconds to finish off. I see that someone's finding it challenging to write, probably with a laptop mouse, I'd imagine. So that's perfect. So that's just giving you a really nice indication as the person presenting in the webinar about how everyone's feeling, which I think is really, really important. And there's always one person that puts a massive picture right in the middle of the screen. So I'm just going to make that a bit smaller, if that's okay. Oh, sorry. Oh, it's going crazy. Right. So you've got also got this. There we are. There we are. I think the two of us are trying to interact with it at the same time. So that's lovely. If we could stop annotating now, that's great. So hopefully, if you haven't seen Jamboard before, you can see how that can be very effective in the Arabic classroom. Okay, lovely. So now I've got a nice impression of how you're feeling. You can see as well I'm using Bitmojis, more of that later. So let's go on to the next slide. Okay, so this is what we're going to try and do in the session. I can see that someone has used the actual whiteboard itself. So I'm just going to remove the whiteboard option, which I need to remember myself how to do this. It's under security, and then I'm going to click on, where is it? So I'm going to remove that possibility. That's fine. And so we'll just leave that as it is. So that's actually what someone has done there. It's not a problem, but you've actually used the whiteboard tool within Zoom as opposed to using the Jamboard. And if I click on annotate, and I can click on eraser, I think, and let's see if yes, there we are. I can get rid of that. That's fine. So otherwise, that's going to be on every single slide from now on, which obviously we don't want to have. So that's lovely. So let's get rid of that toolbar. There we are. Right. So as you can see, this is what we're going to try and do in this session. We're going to first of all have a look at a very comprehensive document which I put together, which should help you with structuring your online teaching and giving you hopefully lots of inspirational ideas that you can use and share with your colleagues. We're then going to have a look at some security features around popular video conferencing tools like Zoom, Teams, and Google Meet, looking at safeguarding issues as well. We're then going to get more hands-on with some ideas around using Screencastify to create screencasts, Flipgrid, and then Jamboard, which I've just had a go with you. And I'm going to give you lots of examples of how you can use it specifically in languages. And then if we've got time, we'll do a bit of whiteboard.fi as well, which is a digital way of having everyone having mini whiteboards, which works really nicely in a synchronous situation. So we're going to have some synchronous and asynchronous ideas around remote teaching. So that's what we're going to try and do. Let's crack on. Okay. Right. So the first thing I wanted to show you is a very long, comprehensive document, which I think is around 38 pages long now, full of links. Here are the headings. We've got things like getting started, world language teachers giving tips on remote learning, video conferencing tools, screencasting, what have you. But I'm just going to click on this link right now at the bottom, and I'm going to show you this document live. So you can see that this is the reason I put this document together was because of the fact that 8 weeks ago, it was very clear that lots of people, or everybody, all teachers, would have to start teaching remotely. And so I thought, well, how can I help? And so what I decided to do was to put in lots of my own ideas, as well as collect lots and lots and lots and lots of links that I was coming across on social media, in emails, on Twitter, on Facebook, etc. And I also did a presentation for TILT. TILT stands for Technology and Language Teaching. These are webinars, which I'm going to talk about in more detail later. And I started the first one on the 19th of March when I showcased this document, and I went through some of the contents. And the link to that video recording is here as well. So I can actually share this link with you right now in the chat, which is is.gd/tilt Joe Dale. There we are. But I'm just going to give you a flavour of how comprehensive this document is. So you can see that we've got all these headings here. And to start off with, I've got all these articles, these sort of overview articles about remote teaching, written by different people. Can I ask you to mute your microphone, please? The person that's got their microphone on, if that's okay. I've just, that's lovely, thank you. So as you can see, we've got all these different links here to different articles. This one, for example, is by a teacher called Ross Morrison McGill, who's also known as Teacher Toolkit. And he's got an article which really inspired me to start off with, called 46 Ideas How to Teach Online. And as you can see here, he's got a list of different links and things to explore. And I use this as the inspiration really to put this document together, to be honest. So there we are, that's that one. And anyway, we're just going to carry on a little bit more. So you can see here in the next section, there are lots of language teachers who've shared ideas through websites, through blog posts, through resources that they've shared. Then we're looking at some video conferencing tools. So if you're using Zoom, for example, there's lots of guides around using Zoom here. We then go on to Microsoft Teams. I'm going to be demonstrating this one live, this idea here. This is when you can turn your a second device into a document camera. In fact, I might as well do that right now as we're here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come out of my, or stop sharing, should I say. I'm going to just click stop sharing for a second. There we are. And I'm just going to launch Zoom on my iPad, which I've got in front of me. Just give me a second. There we are. So if I launch Zoom, and this is a way of having a second device as your document camera. So I just need to click on participants and invite. There we are. And then I can put in the code. So the code is 426 541 2439. Tap join. Then I put in a password like this, and then like this. Okay, and then tap continue. And now I'm going to mute my audio here. Okay, and now you should be able to hear me on my iPad. So now what I'm going to do is point my camera. Can you see what I'm doing? Point my camera at a piece of paper, and then I'm going to write, let's have a look, British Council and Qatar Foundation International. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to demonstrate how you can use a second device, such as a phone or an iPad, as a visualizer. Yeah, can you all see how that's working? So I'm obviously holding this right now, but I could have this propped up on some books or what have you, and that would mean I'd be using the back camera, which is probably the better camera out of the two. I don't say an iPad, but you can use your phone as well. It's pointing at the piece of paper, and then I can then be describing a grammar point or how to form certain characters, for example, and have it recorded live or just presenting it live. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'm going to, with that in mind, I'm now going to come out of Zoom here. And now I've unmuted myself so you can hear myself again. So that's how that works. And I'm now going to share my screen again. So hopefully that was clear on what I was doing. So if I now clear share screen, and I go back to the page that I was just showing you. So that's that idea. If I go further down, you can see, anyway, there's lots and lots of information. This is all about Google Meet. This is, all of this is Google Meet, Microsoft Teams, lots of ideas around using Microsoft Teams. And so it goes on. And there are lots and lots of resources there for language teachers, which I've spent 8 weeks putting together, and I'm adding to it all the time. And it's pages and pages and pages. So if you have any questions at all, your first port of call I would suggest is here. Right, let's go back to my presentation and let's go back to the next slide. Okay, so these are the TILT webinars that I talked about. So TILT, as I've said, stands for Technology and Language Teaching. Myself and my friend Helen Myers, who is the chair of the Association for Language Learning London branch, we've been putting together a face-to-face event called TILT, and we've been doing that for a while now. But of course, it was cancelled in April when it was supposed to be taking place, along with everything else in my diary. And so we decided that we would do a set of webinars instead, because there was clearly a huge need for this, and that's exactly what we did. And some of these videos, which are all available on my YouTube channel, some of them have been watched over 1,000 times, which is incredible. At the bottom of this slide, you've got the link to the AWL London branch page, where you can find all the details about the upcoming webinars. And then you've also got underneath my YouTube channel. I can see we've got a question. Does that work on Teams, Microsoft? Okay, can you clarify what you mean when you say does that work? Does what work on Microsoft Teams? I'm not exactly sure what the that refers to in your question. Could you clarify? I'm going to carry on, but just if you could clarify that, that would be great. Okay. Now, in relation to tutorials, I would really recommend, if you're going to be using Zoom, that you check out the tutorials that Russell Stannard has put together. He's an English teacher by trade. He's also an educational consultant, and on his website, which is teachertrainingvideos.com, he's done many videos around the use of educational technology to enhance language learning. And he's also very prevalent on YouTube. And I would really encourage you to check out his video content, particularly this one on security features for educators and breakout rooms, which I'm going to talk about more later on. So just in relation to the question, does that work on Teams, Microsoft? Can you just clarify what you mean? Because I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that. I'm more than happy to answer the question, but I just need a bit more clarification. Okay, let's go on to the next page around Zoom security. So here, Zoom have updated their software quite a lot in the last few weeks, and now it's a lot easier to control the security features live from the interface. So for example, now the host can mute participants on entry, turn off screen sharing, chat, and the option for students to rename themselves, lock the meeting so no one else can join once the meeting is in session, allow participants to unmute themselves, etc., etc., etc. So that's been very welcome, I think, that these new features have now come in, whereas before you'd have to do them in the main interface, sorry, in the website settings rather than in the actual interface itself. So that's been very welcome. And I've put some links here for other resources that you can, or other references that you can explore in more detail around security. Now, one of the things which I thought would be very helpful for the community was to ask experts who are using Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and Google Meet to answer the same questions around their particular video conferencing tool of choice. So that's exactly what I did. I put together a Google form and I sent it to some of my contacts on Twitter and friends of mine, and they very kindly answered all the questions that I put to them. So it's 2 pages of questions such as, can students join a session before the teacher? Can the teacher enable a waiting room? Can the teacher automatically mute students' audio upon entry into a session, etc., etc., etc. So we've got this page here, and then if we go on to the next slide, we've got another page, and all of this has been verified by the experts as well as other people who I've shown it to. And as a result of that, I think this is the safest way of being able to use these sorts of video conferencing tools. I'm going to talk more about safeguarding in a moment, but I can see that we've got a question. Can anybody hack into it? Okay, so what's very important about getting entry to a Zoom meeting is when you create a Zoom meeting, when you set that up in your account, first of all, they've now put on a waiting room by default. So you saw that when you came into the session, the waiting room was enabled by default, which I think is a really good thing. And also when you create the invitation, it automatically creates a password for you. So what I would suggest that you do is make sure that you never ever post the link to join the meeting, and certainly not the password as well, anywhere public, e.g. on Twitter, on Facebook. You send people the registration link via email. Or you could use a tool like Eventbrite, which is what we do for the Tilt webinars, so that people sign up via the Eventbrite, and then in the confirmation email that they receive, they then get the link to the meeting. And by doing that, you're going to stop people who you don't want to be in the room to join the room. But if they do, if someone gets access to the room, as I mentioned already, you can always mute them, you can remove them. Once you've removed them, you can set it so that they can't get entry again. You can disable screen sharing. So there's lots of things that you can do in relation to that. So that's really, really good, I think. I can see, right, Fatima's asked the question, is there a limit with regard to number of students joining the Zoom meeting? Yeah, great question. So if you're having a session with multiple people, as opposed to just one-to-one, then in the UK, you are limited to 40 minutes per session. But if you apply to Zoom and if you do a search for removing the limit, my understanding is that UK educators can apply for the limit to be removed, but you have to apply to it. You can't just get it by signing up. You have to say that you're a teacher, etc. And by doing that, my understanding is you can remove that limit. I'm personally using a pro account. This is not my account right now. This is Tony's account, but this is if you have a pro account, then it's unlimited the amount of time you can record for or you can speak for. But if you're using the free account, unless you ask for the limit to be removed, you can speak for 40 minutes. So what you could do is you could have a 40-minute session, then you give the people in the room another link, and then they just join that one afterwards if you don't want to pay. And I understand why people don't want to do that. So just to be very clear, so it's 40 minutes for each free Zoom session, but you can apply for the limit to be lifted. Yes, you can, absolutely. Yeah, you can use Zoom for assessments online, and I could do a whole session on that, but that's not what we're covering today. But I would have a look at things like Socrative, Kahoot, quizzes, and other. On my YouTube channel, I've showcased other ideas around assessment. In relation to the number of people in a Zoom session, you can have up to 100 people in a Zoom session for free, which is very generous, I think. And you can see everyone's webcam if they have all their webcams turned on, but more about safeguarding in a moment. In fact, talking of safeguarding, I'll go to that right now. So this is another reference by Teacher Toolkit, or Ross Morrison McGill. And he's very kindly put together this website blog post called Safeguarding Pupils, Teaching Pupils Using Zoom Video. But a lot of the reference in this particular blog post could be applied to any safeguarding issues around online teaching. So what Ross has done is he's put together some official guidance from Zoom around how you can keep the students as safe as possible. There are some schools which are stopping their teachers from doing any sort of live sessions, e.g. when you can see the children's webcams, because from a safeguarding point of view, there are lots of schools who are not happy about the fact that the children can see in each other's rooms, the teacher can see each other's room, and vice versa. And things like if the child is using their webcam in their bedroom, then clearly that's not a good idea, and they need to find a place in their living room or somewhere like that. And I appreciate it's challenging if you've got, say, 4 children, all secondary school age or primary school age, who are all trying to learn at the same time and maybe sharing devices and this sort of thing. So there's a real issue around that. So which is why some schools are saying that all the teaching has to be done all asynchronously. So the teacher creates a task, the students do it, but then you don't get that interaction, which I think is very, it's something that I think that children are missing. You could do that Jamboard synchronously, but you couldn't have the webcams on at the same time. So those are a few resources that will help with safeguarding for sure. But clearly, it's up to the school to decide how they want you to progress, and then as long as you adhere to that, but you're creative about ideas that you can do, then that's the way to go, I think. Okay, in relation to helping when you're in a live session of enabling non-verbal feedback and reactions, you'll see that if you click on the participants option on your toolbar at the bottom of the screen, you'll see that you've got different icons there, such as raise hand, yes, no, go slow, go faster. And if you click on the more option, you've got some other ones like thumbs up, thumbs down, clapping, offer a tea break, and away from the keyboard. And so by doing that, I could ask you, for example, ask you to raise your hand, or to say either yes or no. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to ask you, is online teaching a good idea? So what I'd like you to do, please, is to click on either yes or no. So you click on the participants option, and then you click either yes or no. And I can then check in the, if I click on participants right now, I should be able to see if any of these options are being enabled. So if you could do that now for me, please. Go to where it says participants in the taskbar at the bottom of the page, and click on either yes or no. Is online teaching a good idea? Let's see. Okay, so I can see that Sully has put his hand up, which is lovely. But can you click on either yes or no? Not raise hand. Okay, you're all raising your hands now. If you could click on either yes or no, the green one or the red one would be lovely, if that's possible. So the idea of this is, instead of having people say yes or no on the microphone, you can, particularly if you've got a large group, you can ask people to give you feedback by clicking on yes and no. And to enable this nonverbal feedback, you go into your settings in the browser in Zoom, and you go to Profile Settings, Meeting Basic, and then you simply enable this nonverbal feedback, and that will then appear on your screen. Okay, you've also got the other option, which is reactions, which is also bottom right of your screen in the taskbar. And when you get reactions, you can either do a clap or a thumbs up, which is also nice as well. Okay, I'm not sure why people haven't been able to click yes or no. Oh, I know, it's because I'm not using my Zoom session. We're using Tony's, and he hasn't enabled this. That's why. Phew, right, okay, I'm not going crazy. Right, okay, that's why. So if you were in my session right now, then we would be able to do that, because I've enabled it. So for future reference, Tony, if you want to go to zoom.us, log in, go to Profile Settings, Meeting Basic, you'll be able to enable nonverbal feedback. There we are. Okay, let's carry on. Right, we're now going to have a bit of fun with breakout rooms. So I'm going to come out of my session like this. Oh no, I won't be able to do this either, because I'm using Tony's session. So I'm just going to explain what would happen. I was forgetting. I'll explain what would happen. So breakout rooms is really nice, because what you can do is you can click on breakout rooms, and then you can automatically send people to a breakout room. You could have, say, 3 or 4 people in the same room all together, give them a task to do, and then they all get to chat together. And to enable breakout rooms, again, you have to go to zoom.us, log in, go to Profile Settings and Meeting, Advanced, and then where the switches are there, you simply enable give host option to report participants to Zoom. Breakout rooms is here. You just enable that one. And then if you want to allow host to assign participants to breakout rooms when scheduling, I wouldn't bother with that one, actually, because everyone needs to have a Zoom account. So that's not really appropriate for school age children, because they need to be 16 or above. So what I would make sure that you do is click on the enable option to the right of breakout room on the screen, right in the middle of the screen. And again, Russell Stannard has done a video about using breakout rooms, which I would encourage you to have a look at. And the link is at the bottom there in the presentation slide, on this particular slide. So this is what I showed you earlier, using a second device as a document camera. So that's all good. And the next one is screencasting. So talking about synchronous and asynchronous delivery, if you're not allowed to have live sessions, then screencasting is definitely your friend. So if you've not done screencasting before, screencasting is when you essentially record your screen while you're reading over the top of it, while you are annotating. You could, for example, have a PowerPoint and you could be narrating your PowerPoint and then say that's a video. That's a very simple option. You could have a Google Doc and you could be using a screencasting tool to record over the top while you are giving feedback or maybe highlighting some text. So that can be very, very nice and very personable to the student because they can hear your voice as the teacher, which is lovely. The 3 tools which I would recommend that you explore for screencasting is one's called Loom, which is the one on the left-hand side, Loom. Then you've got Screencastify here in the middle one. And then you've got what's called Screencast-O-Matic. They're all very similar, but I was going to say my favorite is Loom, but actually I'm leaning towards Screencastify as well. I really like Loom and Screencastify. And I wrote an article for the Modern Language Teachers Lounge, which is organized by Linguiscope. And this goes through different ways you can use screencasting in the languages classroom. And this was an article in the TES, which is very apt about the challenge of synchronous learning as opposed to asynchronous learning, which, as you can see, is called 4 Reasons Pre-Recorded Lessons Are Your Best Option. I don't necessarily agree with that title, but there we are. So if I just give you a quick glimpse of how this is going to work, if I click on Screencastify, which is a Chrome extension, like this. Okay, this then comes up like this. I'm going to just turn off my video quickly by clicking stop video, otherwise it won't work. There we are. And now I'm going to click record like this. So I'm now recording in a moment. There we are. Can you see? Okay, so I'm now recording. I'm going to click on the annotation tool, which is very nice. And I'm just going to draw, can you see, over the top of this picture. So I could be, for example, I could be annotating someone's work with this. I could be recording my voice and everything is saved automatically. So if I now click on the Screencastify Chrome extension again and click stop, then a new page will appear and I can now unmute this and you'll be able to hear my dulcet tones again like this. Here we go. I'm just going to draw, can you see, over the top of this picture. So I could be, for example, I could be annotating someone's work with this. I could be recording my voice and everything is saved automatically. So if I now click on the Screencastify Chrome extension again and click stop, and there we are. So you can get up to 5 minutes for free using Screencastify, which is really cool, I think. Loom is unlimited, but I found that when you're using Loom in a Zoom session, it doesn't seem to like that. So I would recommend Screencastify, but if you're working independently, you could certainly use Loom. It's fantastic. And it's unlimited how long you can record for. So having done my Screencastify example, I can now click on the copy shareable link option, which is top right. That's now worked. And now in the chat, I can now paste that in like this. And there we are. So that means now if you wanted to, you could click on that link and you could all watch my feedback all in the same place. You could use that Screencastify link as well in, for example, a Google Doc or a Google slideshow that the students have done, or in a Teams channel, whatever you want. So it's really, really nice from the point of view of giving feedback. Okay, let's go back to my slideshow. And let's click back on present. There we are. And I'll turn my video back on as well, which is here. There we are. Right, cool. Right, let's go back to the next, let's go to the next slide. Right, here's some testimonials from some language teachers who have been using screencasting tools. So for example, you've got Miss Egan, top left, from Ireland, saying, using Loom to walk students through a sample answer saves time in class, promotes autonomous learning and sense making, and allows for a flipped classroom. Cannot recommend this tool enough, which is lovely. And what I particularly like about this one is underneath, as you can see from Loom themselves, they've said, love this, so glad we can be useful for your class. And then Ms. Grice, MFL here, has said, use Loom for the first time yesterday. Thanks for the tip, Jodelle. And was surprised how easy it is to use. Definitely recommend it for anyone teaching from home. And Rachel has written, how does this compare to Screencast-O-Matic? I've been using that one so far. And then Ms. Grice has then said, can't compare because I've only used Loom, but it's so simple. The kids really like it. And the only downside is it can take a little while to edit your videos, but I really like it, really rate it overall. Rachel said, I'll have a look, thank you. And that's typical of the sort of discussion that you're seeing all the time at the moment on Twitter, particularly via the MFL Twitterati hashtag, which I'd really recommend you checking out if you haven't heard about it already. Just doing a search for MFL Twitterati plus, for example, speaking or grammar or the name of a tool, and you'll find lots of fantastic resources because everything is archived in Twitter, which is just incredible. Okay, right, I'm now going to go through Flipgrid. Can you just put in the chat if you've used Flipgrid before? While you're doing that, I'll just describe a little bit about it. So Flipgrid is owned by Microsoft, and it's proving very popular amongst language teachers from around the world for promoting speaking, particularly at the moment with asynchronous speaking opportunities. And so the tweet top left is from a school in the UAE. And as you can see, they've written some really lovely videos from Year 9 this morning on Flipgrid, even got a subjunctive. Such communicative confidence. We may not be face-to-face, but Zoom, Flipgrid, and Hangouts are the next best things. Also with Flipgrid, you can also do screen recording, and there's also a new Chrome extension for Flipgrid as well. So again, I'm just going to come out of my presentation, and I'm going to show you how this works live. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go to Flipgrid, like that. Oh, let's just, hang on, let me just go to the beginning. There we are. Let's just remember the previous link that I had. Right, there we are. Right, so Flipgrid, there we are. Right, okay. So then I click Educator Login, like this, and it should log me in there. It's logged me in straight away because it's remembered my login details. So Flipgrid, as the name implies, allows you to create unlimited numbers of grids, and in each grid you can have as many topics as you want. So what you would do is you'd set up the grid, one per class, and then as many topics as you want per grid. So I'm going to create a grid right now by clicking Add New Grid, and I'm going to give it a title. So I'm going to call it Arabic BC. Okay, and then this is very, very important, the next thing I'm going to say, which is the type of grid type that you set up. So I would recommend that when you're doing this, you always choose the school email option. That means that your school will have to be either a Google school or a Microsoft school, in the sense that everybody is using the same domain. So nobody can have access to your Flipgrid unless they're part of your school domain, which is the safest way of using this. It's very, very, very safe to use Flipgrid. It is GDPR compliant, but you need to get parental consent for the students to use it as well. And to find that link, you just put in Flipgrid consent, like that, consent form. Here it is. You click on that link, and then you share that with your parents. And so you've then got permission for the students to then post their videos onto Flipgrid. And you can do it, you can use Flipgrid without having videos as well, which I'm talking about more in a moment. For today, because we're not all part of the same domain, I'm going to choose the Educator Learning Community option, like that, which means anyone can join it who has the link, but obviously I'm just going to share it with you guys now. And I'm going to call it Arabic BC, like that, which is available, which is nice. So I'm going to click next. Okay, I'm not going to give a password because I just want to make it nice and easy. And there we are. So you can see here that you can share your link, your Flipgrid link, straight into Google Classroom or in Microsoft Teams, which is very handy indeed. So now I click Go to your grid, and here we are. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Actions. This is for my grid options. So then I click Edit Topic, like this. Okay. And as you can see, we've got a title here automatically, which I could change if I wanted to. But what I'm going to point out now is here where it says Video Moderation. So here what I need to do is I need to, if I want to moderate every single video so I get to see it live before anyone else does, I just simply click here. Right? That means that any videos that are posted will be moderated before anyone else gets to see them. And it could be that you don't show them to anyone, you're just using it to collect the videos from your class so no one can see anyone else's video. So there's that option. You've also got the recording time option, which can be as little as 15 seconds and as long as 10 minutes. So I'm going to go for the 10-minute option. Not that I'm going to record for 10 minutes, but just to show you how that works. And then finally, if we go further down, you've got the student-to-student replies option, which is turned on by default. So if you don't want the students to give each other feedback by video, then you can turn that off. I'm going to leave that on for now, and I'm going to click Update Topic. Okay, so I've just done that. I'm now going to click here where it says Flip Code, and that will allow me to see the student view of my Flipgrid. So you can see here, for example, you've got the big green and white button, and it says moderated. So that means anything that's posted will be seen by the teacher first. So with that in mind, I'm going to click on here. So don't forget, this is the student view, which I'm looking at. So I click here, and I click Login with Google. So I'm now logging in as a student. So I'm going to click here with my Gmail account. Here I am. And now, because I've got my video turned on, it's not going to work. So I need to turn off my video by doing that in Zoom. And now I click Retry Camera. And now it's working. Okay. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you a couple of things. So here, for example, you've got the filters option. So I click on that, and you've got all these different options here. So you can change the colors. But the one I'm particularly interested in is this one, which is the pixel option. By clicking on that, I can then pixelate myself, so it's not as easy to see who it is who's speaking. You can also click on this option, which is the stickers option. And if I click on one of those, I can then click on, for example, this one. And then this then appears on my face like that. Okay, like that. Or what I can do is, if I want to get rid of that, I can click on the stickers option like that, and I can upload a picture as well. So I could have a picture that's on my desktop, which will then fill the whole screen. So you don't have to appear on the video if you don't want to. You can just use a sticker and then just make it full screen so that nobody can see you. Okay. Let's just put the sticker back on. There we are. And make it full screen like that, or make it nice and big over my face. There we are. Right. So now I can record myself like this. Here we go. Okay, so I'm using Flipgrid. This is an example of how you can record in Flipgrid as a fantastic way to promote speaking listening skills. So as the teacher, I would record my video asking a question in the target language, and all the students would then reply to that with their own videos. If they don't want to appear on the screen, they can pixelate themselves, or they can put a picture over the top of their face using the sticker option, etc., etc., etc. Okay, there we are. Right, so I've done that, and then click Next. Okay, so I'm using Flipgrid. This is an example of how you can record in Flipgrid. There we are, that sounds fine. I then click Next. I take a selfie if I want to, like this. Then click Next again. And then, as you can see, my name is displayed as my first name plus the first initial of my second name. I can delete that and put whatever I would like, but as long as the teacher knows who each person is, then I think that's absolutely fine. Then you click Submit Video. And then you click Complete. And we've done it. So now you can see that it says video submitted. Your video will appear, so it will be hidden until approved by your educator, because don't forget, this is the student view, which I'm showing right now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click back where it says Joe Dale here and go to Educator Login. So now I'm going back as the teacher, as it were. And here I'm going to click where it says Arabic BC. I'm going to click on this little thumbnail here. And I'm now going to click on this little icon here to go to the actual topic within the grid. Okay, and you can see that my video is there, but it's hidden. So in other words, I can see, and that's true of any of the videos that would then appear here, that they're all hidden because of the fact I've had moderation turned on. Hopefully that makes sense. So now what I can do is I can click on here, and I can now make it active. That means it's now seeable, as it were, from the interface we just had a look at. I can also click on here as well as the teacher. Okay, so I'm using Flipgrid. This is an example. Here we are, and you can see you've got a feedback option here. Now, if I click on this, which I'm going to right now, and give myself some feedback like this. Okay, so this is some video feedback, as if I was the teacher and I was giving some feedback to the student. That's going to be attached to my Flipgrid video. So well done. Right, so then I click Next. Okay, so next again, take a selfie. Next again. And submit video. And complete. Right, okay, so I'm using Flipgrid. This is you can see that a little thumbnail has appeared here. which is my video feedback. Now, if I share this video with everybody, everybody will be able to see my feedback, as well as the, and also if the students leave feedback, everyone else can see their feedback, right? If I've enabled the feedback option, which I talked about earlier. If I don't want the students to see my feedback, just the student it's aimed at, here, I can click on video feedback here. And this, as you can see, it says, this video will only be available to Joe Dale, and in other words, that's me as the student, don't forget. Or I can click on the copy feedback link, email feedback. So I know some teachers, what they do is they give their feedback and then they email it to the student, so only they will see it, right? So if I click on here, for example, and I recorded myself, then only that student would see. Okay, so I'm using Flipgrid. This is that feedback. So you can have it so everyone can see the feedback, or you can have it so it's only private to that individual student. Hopefully that makes sense. Right, I'm now going to go back to here and go back to, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go to here. There we are. And I'm going to turn off moderation because I've demonstrated how that works now. So I'm going to click edit. Sorry, I'm going to click here. I'm going to go here to the topic, edit topic, and then I'm going to turn off moderation. But that's how moderation works. And I click update topic. Cool. Right. I'm then going to click back on here to view as a student again. And you can see now that the moderation option is no longer there. My video thumbnail is now here, and the little circle is there. If there were other children that had added video feedback, they'd all appear here as well. So now if I click on the record option, I log in again with Google. I can click on the remember me option, but I haven't done that right now. And there we are. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on here, which is the whiteboard option. Okay, and I can click on the white or the black option here. I click on white, and then what I can do is, I can do this as well. If I click on here, this is a post-it note or sticky, and that can be a reminder of what you want to say, but it won't appear in the final video. Okay, you just click on there to do that. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to click, I'm going to move this on to, no, sorry, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep it on the black. I'm going to press record like this, and away we go. Right. Okay. Right, so now what you can be doing is you can be writing on the top of your whiteboard. Then you can be changing the color to say a reddy color, like that. And then you can press pause, like that. Then you can click clear at the top. And then you can move it back to black and press record again. Then you could be writing the word goodbye. But you could, of course, be talking about some grammar in Arabic as well if you wanted to. Like that. Okay, so I've just done that, and I can carry on the same way, adding, if you like, the impression of slide after slide. Good question about can you write in Arabic on a post-it note. The honest answer is I don't know, but I would try it out. I don't see why not, but I would try it out in your own time. Right, if I now click next. Right, so now what you can be doing is you can be writing. Right, I then click next again, take a selfie, next again, and then submit video and complete. Right, so now if I refresh the page, because I've turned off moderation, it will now be here. And if I click on the thumbnail, right, so now what you can be doing is you can be writing on the top of your whiteboard. Then you can be changing the color to say a reddy color, like that. And then you can press pause. Then you could be writing the word goodbye, but you could, of course, be talking about some grammar in Arabic as well if you want to. Okay, so hopefully that's very clear. I think this could be perfect for Arabic teaching because of the way that you can then use that whiteboard to explain how to form characters and what have you. I'm sorry I don't know about the writing in Arabic in the post-it note. You probably can, but you just have to check it out. Right, the next idea I'm going to show you in relation to Flipgrid is a little bit more out there, which is the following. I'm going to go to Google Earth right now and click on here like this. And then we're going to click Launch Earth. And you do need quite a quick computer to do this, but it's a really nice idea, I think. So in Google Earth, once it's launched, here we are. We're in, yeah, here we are. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom out. So to do that, I'm going to click on the globe. Okay, that's going to zoom me right out so that we can see the whole world like this, which is very exciting. And then I'm going to go to Flipgrid and I'm going to click record like this. I need to log in again like that. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the ellipsis here, the 3 dots. And can you see it says screen recording? This only works in the desktop version, not on the iPad or the Android app version. So if I click screen recording and I click start screen recording, I'm going to do the following. Here we go. Select the page that you want to be on. Click share. You then get a 3-second countdown and away we go. Okay, so I'm now recording. I then go to Google Earth. So I'm recording right now. I'm going to move my thumbnail over so I can see what I'm doing. And here you've got the search option. So I could put in an actual address if I wanted to, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to click on this option, which is I'm feeling lucky. So I'm going to click on that and let's see where in the world. I've got no idea where I'm going, but it would seem I'm actually going to Italy, to a place called Burgstall in northern Italy. Okay, and there I am. And then I'm going to drop the little man here and I'm going to go straight to Google Street View. And then I can use this as a way of talking about the local area. So I could ask the class, for example, what can you see? What's the weather like? Where are we in the world? Can you see anybody? Who's that in the car? Where are they going? So in other words, just make up some language as a type of web quest, but randomly. And I think that children would find that really useful. And then they could then do the same in Flipgrid, record their session, and then upload it onto the grid. If I now click I'm feeling lucky again, we're now going to go to Japan. So this is really nice as well for promoting intercultural understanding, for example. Here we are, we're in Japan. And now I'm going to click on the Street View man again and flying straight into Street View. And again, here we are in Japan. I could then ask some information about that, about that area. And there we are. And then finally, let's go somewhere else. Okay, we're now going to Canada. So in Canada, oh, wow. So we're really remote on a little island in Canada. That's really, really cool. So again, let's see what happens if Street View goes here. Let's see if it goes here. Be interested to see if it does. Yeah, we're going in. Okay. And here we are in this little island in Canada. And there are some people there. So it's obviously inhabited, but I wonder whether anyone lives there. I don't think they do I? I think it's just a touristy thing. So there we are. So that's how that works. And then I can then go to Flipgrid and stop recording. Away we go. Okay, so I'm now recording. I then go to Google Earth. Now, because that's quite a long clip, what we can do is we can actually, if I click away we go. Okay, so I'm now, can you see the slider? I can move that along to where I want it to go, which is going to be just around here, I think. Let's click play. Put in an actual, no, let's go back a bit. So I can see one bit more. Now, I'm going to move my thumbnail over. So so by dragging the handle, you can get it to exactly the point you want it to get. So then I click confirm. Now, I'm going to move my thumbnail over. Then take another selfie. Then next again. And it will then upload onto Flipgrid. It takes a little bit of time for it to render, but you can see the basic use of Flipgrid is for promoting speaking listening skills, but you can also use the screen recording option to, for example, go on a web quest as a random way of asking real questions around an area. You could put in a particular destination or go for that random option, which is quite fun and a great way of promoting motivation and language learning, I think. Right, if I click submit video, we've done it. And then if I click on this link here, it will say it's still preparing it, which is what I was expecting. Okay, so that's Flipgrid. Let's go back to my presentation and go back to present and go on to the next slide. Okay, Jamboard. So we looked at Jamboard earlier, but what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go through some languages specific ideas around Jamboard. Okay, so the first one is Screencastify. And that's when you are drawing over the screen, a bit like as I've shown you already, but within Jamboard, and then you're making some sort of grammar screencast, which you can then share with everybody. Go on to the next one. This is a tool called, or a website called Xwords, which allows you to create a crossword, and then the students then draw in the letters on the screen. You've got drag and drop in Bitmoji. So for example, if I were to go to the Bitmoji share extension, and I could just drag any of these items in, but if I were to put in, for example, Arabic BC, I can also create a customized version of my Bitmoji. Let's go for this one. And just literally drag it into the Jamboard, and it then appears like that. Yeah, perfect. Or I can click on it and just press delete as well. Breakout rooms I talked about. This is how you use breakout rooms. So you could use a Jamboard within a breakout room whereby you assign a different frame for a different group. That could be very useful, I think, as a collaborative task. You could add a photo from Photos for Class and have different questions either side, particularly useful for GCSE. Snipping tool, you can take a screen snip of anything on the screen, which could be, for example, a PDF, or it could be any page that you would like on the web. I do appreciate that we've now come to just after 5 o'clock. We did start about 10 past, but that's fine. I will wrap up quite soon. So anyway, if I just click on here, you can see there are lots and lots of ideas on how you can use Jamboard in the Languages Classroom, which I've put together for you. And in the second link on that slide, there are even more things to have a look at. So let's come out of here right now and let's go on to the next one. Whiteboard.fi, I think I will show you that another time. It is that's also very, very nice for teaching Arabic. But I think as we're nearly finished, in fact, is there time? Can I have 5 minutes just to show this one? Let's just go for it, if that's okay. I hope you don't mind. So let's just go to whiteboard.fi. It's only 5 minutes long, honestly. It's very quick. Whiteboard.fi. Right, I'm going to click on New Class. I'm going to give it a name. So just call it Joe. I can see this has been added to recently. They've updated it obviously recently. So as you can see there's the link. If I just click on or share the link, I mean, just quickly. If everyone could click on that link, I'm going to do this live as well for you. So I'm going to go to whiteboard.fi, and then you tap on Join Class. You put in the code, which as you can see is P39K9. Then you tap Join Class. Okay, you put your name like that, and then you clap Join Whiteboard Class. Right, so now I want you to draw a picture representing how you're feeling about remote teaching. So I'm going to put a heart on my iPad, and that's now appeared on the screen. So what I would like you to do, please, is to do the same thing. Just draw a picture to describe how you're feeling about remote teaching or online teaching. So keep it coming. That'll be lovely. So I can see that some of you have just written in the code for your name, which is fine. But normally what you do is you put the code in, and then when it says put your name, you put your actual name. So I can see that you're now drawing now. So this is the equivalent of doing digital whiteboards, sorry, mini whiteboards, but digitally. Another thing I could do is if I click on Safat here, for example, like that, he will then go full screen. And if I click on Screencastify, which I will just click on here and click record, making sure that I've turned off my, that's fine. Yeah, click on record. Safat, can you carry on recording, writing on the screen, I mean? So if I now click on the pen tool, I can see that he's put a thumbs up, but if he were carrying on drawing now, I could also annotate at the same time. My voice and everything is being captured so that I can actually give immediate feedback based on what he is drawing. He's obviously not drawing right now, but that's not a problem. And I can click stop. like that. And as you can see, as before, my audio is there. I can see that he's put a thumbs up, but if he were carrying on drawing now, I could also annotate at the same time. My voice and everything is being captured. And again, I could click on the shareable link option and finish that off. So that's perfect. Under the actions, you've got kick student out if they were drawing something inappropriate, save whiteboard, erase whiteboard, push teacher whiteboard to student, which is also very nice. And finally, as there's not a way of exporting the whole thing as a PDF, what you can do is click on the 3 dots top right and click print, which is here. And then you can then select, if you're in Chrome anyway, you can choose save as PDF. Or if you're not, you can choose a piece of software called Qt PDF Writer, which you have to download. Click print, and it will then turn what would be a paper print off into a PDF like this. So I just click whiteboard, and that's now created a whiteboard PDF of all the different whiteboards. So I've got evidence of the work that the students have been doing. And that's it. That's what I wanted to do. So let's finish off by going back to my session, which is here, clicking on present, and then there we are. Right, so if you would like this presentation, you'd be very welcome to have it. It's is.gd/ArabicBC, or you can just scan the QR code. I'll just give you a moment to do that. And I think I'm right in saying I answered all the questions that came up, but if there were any other questions, if there are any other questions you want to ask me, feel free to do that right now. I'll also put this in the chat as well, the link. And don't forget, this is all being recorded, so you can watch it back at your leisure. So I'm going to come out of my presentation, and I'm going to stop recording as well, if that's okay. Let's just make that full screen. I'm going to stop recording by clicking here and stop recording like this.